Oh man!
So they can
hear us now. Yes, they can hear us now, but they're not on us yet.
Can they hear Pickle Rick?
The suspense is building.
And
it is blossoming.
We're gonna count down.
We're gonna count down. Can you hear Pickle Rick, guys?
One Pickle Rick.
1 Pickle Rick.
2 Pickle Rick.
3 Pickle Rick.
We're on early.
We are on. Well, it's 8.
I wasn't
We did beat our countdown a little bit.
Hi, everybody.
What's going on, everybody? As you can see, we have totally lost our minds at this point.
Because you can see where we still are, right?
Yeah.
You can see what's happening for us.
Day number 3,742. And we have Pickle Rick with us.
And a machete.
We have taken over the house.
We have Pickle Rick and a machete.
A giant
everything
Pickle Rick.
better.
Yeah.
There's a giant Pickle Rick.
And a fake.
A life-size
machete.
Pickle Rick.
Yeah. Life-size Pickle Rick, man. He's huge. We won him at the Dave and Buster's.
At the Dave and Buster's. Yeah.
Totally. Isn't he badass? Check him out. Huh? Oh. Yes. Pickle Rick. Go
Bye, Pickle Rick.
Go sleep it off, Pickle Rick.
So hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
J.K.
What? J.K.
Nate Blanche.
Nate Blanche. What? Weird and wonderful. Who's that?
What's going on, my peeps?
Yeah, what's up, J.K.? How you doing, brother?
Hi,
brother
JK.
man? Brother Jack Dude? How you doing today, dude? Oh, man. So, tonight, we're going to be talking about the Blair Witch Project
Films.
franchise.
Yeah.
Yes.
The franchise that never should have franchised.
No, it shouldn't have at all. It shouldn't have at all.
Set the tone for tonight's conversation.
Yeah, totally.
That shouldn't have happened. So
No, it shouldn't have. Yeah, so the first film took the world by storm.
it did. That's like some of the most clever marketing,
Ever. It's been said, it's been reported by like magazine critics, stuff like that. Like it is accepted, we'll say now, that it is the first viral film before there was even like really a platform for it to go viral.
Yeah.
When
they talk about it being like the first film to be marketed on the internet. Like, yeah.
And as you know, the term viral stuff didn't really happen until like 2006 is when things started, like viral became like a household name.
Yeah, that sounds about right. You'd probably know better than I would, but yeah.
Yeah, it was probably around then. I think that's like when YouTube really first hit the block and stuff like that. But so it is, held as like the first viral film, and like their marketing was genius, and they were just college kids.
Yeah.
It's like insane what they were able to pull off just by like printing some missing persons flyers and stuff like that.
Yeah. They just did what was scary to them. Midnight Passion.
A total stud.
Welcome to the stream, and thank you for your support. That's awesome.
Yeah, hell yeah.
We also have some other newbies into the stream.
Yeah, we totally do. Oisku. I'm not even sure where that.
Oisku.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome. Thank you.
Samuel
Stokes, welcome back.
Yes, as always, brother. Yeah, so the Blair Witch Project, man, it like took the world by storm. I will never forget. I am LMNOP, Nate Blanche. Oh my God, dude, getting a lot of support tonight, man. Check that out. Everybody just popping in like the beasts that they are.
Yay.
I mean, Midnight Passion is now the stream boss too.
Do you think it was for Pickle Rick?
It's for Pickle Rick. It was the Pickle Rick that got us all the hits.
The Pickle Rick that did it?
I'm sure of it. I am certain.
Thanks, everybody.
But, so who else remembers when the Blair Witch Project came out? I
know we'll have some people in here who are too young for that, but...
Yeah, but I think they can appreciate it. And if not, then they'll get like some nostalgic, vibes from this stream, because when the Blair Witch Project came out, I was a young kid. And it took the world by storm because people really thought kids went out into the woods and got lost.
Well, that's how it was presented. So the first screening of the film was at Sundance.
Yeah.
And that's how it was presented, that this was footage that had been found, that the actors, that the people in the footage were missing to that day. Like, these people were still gone. And that's how it was presented to everyone.
So just to let everybody know, I mean, I'm sure everybody already knows, but the Blair Witch Project, of course, follows 3 documentary filmmakers who are shooting a documentary on the Blair Witch, which is a legend centered around the town of Burkittsville, Maryland. And these filmmakers get lost in the woods and their footage is found, and then that's supposedly what we got to watch.
Right.
Was the lost footage, the footage that was recovered from their videotapes.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you were saying, like, so the Blair Witch Project, when they originally started, the idea came about, it had 2 directors. One was Eduardo Sanchez, and the other guy's name is escaping me right now. It's like Merrick, something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But these 2 filmmakers were watching like paranormal documentaries, like ghost hunting shows, or the equivalent of what they had back in like 1993.
Right, and they thought all of that was scarier
than the movies we were getting,
than horror films. So,
Hey, Landy Smith, welcome, brother. It's been a hot minute since I've seen your smiling face in here, Jack. Hell yeah. Daniel Merrick, there you go. Thank you, Samuel Stokes. That is the name of the other director of the Blair Witch Project. So these guys
they blended their love of horror films
and
paranormal
documentaries.
Yeah.
And you get the Blair Witch Project. So what they did was they held a casting call, and they just told people, like, look, we are...
They required improvisational
actors and like heavy improv. They were like, you're virtually not going to have a script. You're going to have direction. Yeah,
they did not have dialogue written into the script. All of the dialogue was improvised.
Yeah. So you had, and of course, Heather Donahue got the role as, they all used their
real names.
Their real names.
Apparently they regret, but
they do. Joshua Leonard and Mike. I can't remember his last name at the moment.
But Heather, Mike.
Yeah, Josh, Heather, and Mike. And yeah, so Heather, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but she totally did regret it. And I'm friends with her on the old social medias. And like, she has really tried to get away from her partaking in the Blair Witch Project. She's really tried to leave that life behind her. But yeah, so they made the movie on like a shoestring budget for back, because they did shoot some on film. Of course, they did shoot some on camera as well, but film is ungodly expensive. And the budget, it's officially marked as $60,000 now. Like, they have finally settled that it was $60,000
for the actual filming.
For the actual production of the film. God damn, son, Landy Smith coming in.
Thank
you. $15. He says, did the actors in original Blair Witch sign a waiver to actually go missing? They haven't really appeared in any films to my knowledge since.
No, apparently Heather has tried to get into other
but she feels like the Blair Witch Project totally cursed her.
Well, she thinks that because she used her real name, no one will put her in their movie.
Well, yeah, and you got to think about how much the Blair Witch Project, specifically that scene of Heather, was spoofed.
Yeah.
With the snot coming out of her nose and she's crying and stuff. Like, you would be scared to death as a director. Like, I'm going to put this chick in my movie and no one's going to take it serious. Like, you could put her in a spoof film. Like, she could have been in one of the scary movies and it would have worked. But
it is a good question about like how long they were kept hidden, because I know that the actors were unable to attend Sundance to keep the missing person thing intact.
I think they had an agreement,
but I don't know how long they
had an agreement for like a year.
Was it
like a year? You guys disappear. No one knows where the hell you are.
Okay. So there you go.
So it was almost like living a wrestling gimmick.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? How the wrestlers back in the day, they had to live their gimmick.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like that. You know?
Yeah.
Um,
Crazy. That'd be wild. Could you imagine?
So I do know, and to answer your question a little bit further there, Landy Smith, Joshua Leonard was actually in the Prom Night remake.
Okay.
Very briefly, he was like a bellhop or whatever in it, and you got to be a super fan to spot him.
Yeah.
He's in that. I'm not sure about Mike though. I'm not sure what.
No, and I didn't even look when we were, reviewing stuff for tonight's podcast. I didn't even think to like look up like where are these actors now because they were pulled from a pool of improv actors. It's entirely possible a lot of them are doing stage work and stuff like that instead. So
yeah, there you go. IMLMNOP says Heather was in a random episode of season 1 of It's Always Sunny. And JK says she was in that Steven Spielberg miniseries about aliens, but he can't remember the name of it. Yeah. And yes, Landy, rest in peace to the Sheik. Dang it.
We saw that.
Yeah, for any wrestling fans out there, the Iron Sheik has passed away,
at
sadly.
81. So
one of the toughest dudes ever. Yeah. But yeah, so and at Sundance, if I'm not mistaken, or I know they at least did it at theaters, they printed out missing person posters, flyers, and handed them out to attendees and was like, if you see these people who are lost making this film, here, contact us.
Well, and they had, a website set up. They had phone numbers set up.
Yeah, they totally did. It was genius.
Yeah.
I still remember going onto the Blair Witch Project website and like seeing like the missing kids and in their pictures and all this lore that was hidden on there. And sadly, unfortunately, the website, I think as of just a couple years ago, finally came down. They probably registered it for like 20 years, that domain, probably paid for it a couple of years and then registered. Well, I want 20 once the studio got involved.
Right,
and now they have, now it just redirects to like lionsgate.com or something.
Oh, okay. That's too bad.
It is. But yeah, it was genius what they did with that movie. And it's, I can remember when it came out and I think it had a little bit. Now we have two different experiences with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I've discussed this before with you a little bit. I'm like, I don't think the Blair Witch Project stood much of a chance out here because like
it's from around these parts.
It is filmed around these parts.
Yeah.
And out here you have hunters and little rednecks, watching this movie and stuff like that. It's like, oh my God, how can you get lost in the woods? There is nothing scary about being in the woods. I would never be in the woods without my rifle. I would never be in the woods without my, I just remember hearing all that.
Yeah.
As a kid. And so I would hear a lot of people constantly making fun of, like, oh my God, these city kids, these city boys, done got lost in the woods. And, so I just remember, I remember that. And of course I remember like some people, now this was totally fake, but like you believe it when you're, a little kid. It's like, dude, we went to see the Blair Witch Project and they give you pills when you go in so you don't get sick. Oh and it's God, like looking back on it now, there is a layer of truth to that though, because people actually did get sick.
Yeah.
Watch it, because I mean, hell, when's the last time a found footage movie had been released? I don't think certainly the modern audience had no experience with that. So it was definitely making people sick. I mean, this was their first experience with it.
Yeah.
So
there are a lot of people who still get sick, like motion sick, watching like found footage films. Yeah.
And
we steady cam for a reason.
Yeah, it just absolutely took the world by storm. And it's hard for me to say that I like the movie because I didn't when it came out. Like I didn't. I wanted to, because of the mystique around it, and all that. But I just did not like it, and like nobody around my area except for my mom. I remember like my mom and one of my sisters really liked it. And like my mom was, at first, like she may have been serious, like this was real, this really happened, I'm telling you it happened. And then I think she did it just to mess with me. Like, oh, that happened, that really happened, kids are still out there somewhere, there's something got them. But it's just a lot of people didn't like it out here, and I did, but I'm starting to, number one, I appreciate it more for what it did for horror, because the 90s sucked ass for horror films.
Yeah.
And I also appreciate how ingenious it was.
Yeah.
Like, they tried something different. And I've started to like it. I'm like, man, that is really cool. And that's a feat for independent filmmakers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the budget was really like, the filmmakers say it was like 25 grand. Then it got reported at 35. Around the time it was reported by like Time Magazine that it was like 35. And like I said, now they've settled on like a good blanket 60 grand. It was, but
yeah,
really it may have been like 25.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think that was a real feat.
Absolutely.
For them,
and I was in Los Angeles at the time, or the Los Angeles area, and it was huge. Like, all the radio stations were talking about it, and I mean, like, not like, oh, this movie's out. It was, is this movie real? Is it not real? Like, and they were all fascinated with the marketing like scheme, really. Like, are these kids actually missing? Is this footage real? All of that. They loved it. And that was talked about for weeks on the radio.
Yeah. The promotion was insane.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was nuts.
Yeah. And I was in my teens at the time, late teens. And my friends all loved it. They all thought it was scary and fun, but see, that's different. And
it's like you said, though, you come from Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So that's vastly I mean, you live with me now, and we may as well live in the Evil Dead cabin.
Yeah.
So
we're in the woods.
We're surrounded by woods and wildlife and all this. So it's like, so you can see the contrast. It's like, it's the woods aren't as scary.
Yeah, but I feel like there's a lot of like bravado there too, because the point of the movie is it wouldn't have mattered if these kids had guns or not.
No,
like, right? Like, all this stuff happening to them is paranormal anyways. So, you know.
Yeah, but still, it's like, it's hard for, because because
they weren't scared going into the woods either. They weren't scared.
No. And living in West Virginia, let me tell you something. People literally, I know people. I am related to people. I'm being totally transparent here because I love you folks. I know people who've gotten married in camouflage. So when we aren't active, I don't think you can ever not be in the woods in West Virginia.
Oh no, the state is, well, I guess there's some farmland, so that's
maybe some farmland.
But
even when we're not, we take the woods with us because we wear camouflage. So it's really hard for rednecks to be afraid of the woods, but
they're all afraid of witches. Let's be real.
Yeah, that's true. But it's just, and I remember my grandpa actually took me to see the movie, and he fell asleep in theaters while we were on. This is the most boring.
I mean, it's definitely definitely a slow burn, but like, I grew up watching 70s sci-fi, so I'm really kind of used to a slow burn.
But also him, once again, he's one of those people, what's scary about the woods? Right.
So they're hearing some stuff in the night, like, what's so scary about that? I get it.
I've come to appreciate the movie a lot more than I did.
Yeah. I will say it scared me the first time I saw it, but it less in the kind of in the moment jump scare kind of thing, and more just it's one of those movies, like, the more you think about, the scarier it is, if that makes sense. Like,
And when you think about it too, you know what I'm saying? Like when you go camping, it's not going to be for a night,
right?
And the whole movie takes place over. It's going to take, you know, a couple days, 2-3 days, or hell, you might go camping for a week. I mean, it happens.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, that's how long the movie takes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not like, it wouldn't have been as realistic had they gotten into the woods and then just shit went down night one. Like
stuff starts happening immediately. No. Yeah. Which we see in the sequels, but not in this first movie. Yeah.
No.
Thank God.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and get to a comment here, though. I see Midnight Passion asks a really good question. He says, "Is it the first found footage?" It's number one, I love your profile picture there, brother.
You're usually wearing a Prince t-shirt.
Yeah, so. I do have a Prince t-shirt
that he wears regularly.
I do.
Yeah.
But no, it is not the first found footage.
No, it is considered a revival.
Oh, absolutely.
Of found footage, because you definitely hadn't seen found footage for a while.
No.
It was not a popular thing through the early 90s, and not really even in the 80s. Really, it's kind of like a 70s grimier kind of thing, right?
Yeah, like Cannibal Holocaust or something like that, which is a great movie. I suggest anyone watch that if they want to see a great found footage movie. But yeah, like, you hadn't seen, nobody knew what the hell that was. Like that generation is gone. And by the time we got the Blair Witch Project, and certainly at the time, the Blair Witch Project was the most famous found footage movie. You know, absolutely. I would still, you know, had that, you know, that generation's now gotten older and we've progressed. Now I would maybe give it to Paranormal Activity. Because that had a very similar viral campaign, but
it has probably stayed more popular, than Blair Witch.
Yeah,
you know, like it's been interesting for me to see, like, some of our young viewers are like, I haven't seen it, I don't plan on seeing it.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, like, so it's not held up, like, it's not, you know, the draw to seeing it, like,
too, you have to think, like, okay, so whether people liked the Blair Witch Project or not when it came out, and thought it was the scariest damn movie they'd ever seen, they proceeded to watch it for the next 5 years, get spoofed over and over and over and over again in everything they watched. And then by the time those people have kids and their kids mention the Blair Witch Project, they're like, oh, that silly ass. You know, they misremember.
Yeah.
You know, because.
Yeah. South Park is my favorite spoof.
Oh, yeah. It's
Blair
more like
Witch. Which is yours?
Favorite spoof of the Blair Witch?
Yeah.
And we're not talking about the Blair Witch Project.
You can. Like, if that's your favorite.
It probably is now, just because, like, me and Briggs are probably the only two people who know it exists.
Yeah. Well, I do now too, but yeah.
But yeah, it's just a silly ass adult film. So that's probably my favorite, just because of how, like, it has that typical adult film storyline.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's hilarious, but probably Scary Movie.
Okay.
You know, because that was the big, and it was just huge.
Yeah. So those of you who haven't seen the South Park, like, they change Heather's famous, you know, looking into the camera scene, and she's talking about how scared she is, and in the South Park episode, it's Randy Marsh, and he's talking about how startled he is.
So startled.
I'm so startled right now, and I've kept that.
Yeah.
Like, that episode is probably almost as old as the movie, and I have totally kept I'm so startled. I'm so startled right now. I'm so startled. But.
Yeah. There you go, Sean. Hell yeah. Welcome to the stream, Sean Marvel, brother. Yeah, Midnight Passion, my favorite South Park spoof is Taps, the paranormal. Oh my God, yeah. It's so hilarious. It's so hilarious. I'll sadly say I think they could have spoofed some of the other Ghost Hunter crews better.
But, like, were there at the time?
There was at that time.
Oh, okay.
I definitely think they could have, like,
episode?
nailed Zach Baggins' ass, but you know what I'm saying?
There should be an entire episode dedicated to just Zach.
Just Zach. Yeah, he's so... But yeah, so the Blair Witch Project, you know, it's interesting what happened like we said, man, it got massive.
Yeah.
Massive. Like the filmmakers were like hoping that it would make it to home video and that would be their best case. This son of a bitch got a wide release.
It grossed $250 million
$250
worldwide.
million. It was
massive.
Like the highest grossing film based off of budget ever for a long time. And then it was dethroned by Paranormal Activity as far as I'm aware. But it's amazing to me that the Blair Witch Project at that time, like I said, the 90s sucked for horror. The Blair Witch Project comes out and blows the damn doors off of everything. I am amazed that everybody didn't jump on the found footage bandwagon at that point in time.
Yeah. Well, I think they knew that part of what worked for the Blair Witch Project was the gimmick, right? Because realistically, it was making people sick. You know, and two, you know, that's a difficult thing for studios because they have to work within their unions and all of that kind of stuff. So, you know, you can't make a union film with, you know, your actors running the cameras, no sound equipment, no, you know, they have all kinds of rules about that.
But you fast forward 10 years and maybe it's, you know, the digital age of filmmaking now. It's far easier to make a film now, especially found footage, than ever. You fast forward 10 years, man, Paranormal Activity comes out and by God, everything was found footage. You know what I'm saying? We got
inundated.
And you know, I mean, there's Paranormal Activity, and I'm not saying like I'm lumping all these together because these were all like semi-popular or some hugely successful movies that came out around the same time. But man, you got like Paranormal Activity, Cloverfield, Quarantine, Wreck.
You know, and those everything. Like when you start to get into things like Cloverfield and Wreck, and that's when you do start to see studios getting their feet wet, so to speak, in the found footage arena. These are films with much bigger budgets. Yeah,
that's true. So so I'm just saying it's weird how in the 90s that didn't inspire a revolution, but 10 years later, by God, everything was found footage there for a solid 5. I mean, VHS 1, VHS 2, 3. I mean, it didn't die for a long time. Like it was, you know, The Last Exorcism. I could keep going. I mean, but here's Darkwing Dave, man. He was there at the ground level, baby. He says Blair Witch Project was badass. If you saw this on opening weekend, like I did. At the time of watching this film, my first date was someone. We freaked out big time. We were in our late teens. Yeah, Darkwing, man, what do you remember most about that era? About that era in time, man? Was it the marketing? Well, I mean, was there any cool tales circulating? Like, dude, this shit was real. Like, did people actually believe that? Or, you know, in my case, people were saying that they were giving out medicine at the damn theater.
Some queasy.
Yeah. But man, so Nate says the Blair Witch Project sounds a little cool but boring. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Like, because now, like I said, I've already explained that, like, now I appreciate it more. Now I like it more than I did, but that was my problem.
It was boring for you.
And a lot of people's because that's not scary to us. It's the woods.
Yeah.
And yes, it is very, it's very slow. There's not a lot that happens on screen.
Yeah.
You know, you get some atmospheric stuff like some of the characters screaming for help. You get
sounds out in the forest.
Sounds in the forest. Markings left in the woods by the supposed Blair Witch.
Yeah. But I will say, like, hearing sounds in the forest kind of brings something up for me that, like, even all of that was exceptionally well done in the Blair Witch Project. I think moving forward, and we're going to start moving into the sequels, and like sound effects have gotten so wildly overblown that the subtlety to the Blair Witch, I think is what made it work and what makes it still work. Because we just rewatched it, like a year ago?
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Like, I thought there's no way this movie has held up at all. There's no way. And it held up better than I thought it did, especially in comparison to a lot of stuff being made, because of how it's almost like their low budget and whatever, like, worked on their behalf, because, you know, the sounds that they're hearing out in the woods are the filmmakers out in the woods making sounds to scare the actors.
Yeah.
You know, and they're people breaking sticks and things like that. And like, it totally works. Like, if you'll see in the later films, you get like almost like dinosaur sounds.
Oh my God. Yes. We'll definitely get it. Okay. Yeah, JK says here, contemporary found footage films don't try to hide the fact that they are just films. I agree with that. And it became a gimmick. It became something that wasn't used as a device to scare anyone, or like, people didn't even put thought.
Oh yeah, it got to a point where no one even talks about why they're walking around with a camera 24/7. Like, they don't even talk. They don't even tell you anymore. They're just like, you'll believe that we just walk around with a camera running 24/7.
Yeah, it's like, come on,
which kind of makes it drives me nuts. Actually, it's
you got to give them a reason. You got to give them a reason. You know, like in Rec, they're a damn news reporting team. You know.
Oh yeah, Rec is perfect because they're there to film something. Yeah. And so the footage is better too because it's an actual cameraman.
Now we'll say,
and it's supposed to be an actual cameraman.
Now we'll say something that helped the Blair Witch, and it didn't even need this necessarily, because of it being like the found footage was the whole shtick to it.
Yeah,
and the story, and you know, it's hard to think of how creative these guys were at like such a young point in like their career. They included the story of Rustin Parr in the Blair Witch film, which is, you know, the Blair Witch Project, like Ellie Kedward or whatever her name is like her own thing. That's the Blair Witch.
That's the Blair Witch.
But Rustin Parr is a story about like this serial killer who would lure children to his home in the middle of the woods, and he would like make them stand in the corner. Facing the corner, while like he would kill another child, and like they could hear their friends' screams or whatever, and like that's fucking creepy that they would even include that, and then it comes back in the end of the film. Like the whole thing is centered around this Blair Witch, and then the end is almost like a Rustin Parr thing.
Yeah.
So it's like,
well, I think the thought being almost that like this entity that is the Blair Witch or whatever, like possesses the area. So it's almost like she made him do those things. And
all right. And I mean, you know, JP says that he doesn't think any other film found footage film will be able to be looked at as genuine.
Yeah.
I think there's room for that. I still think someone can pull off something crazy. I really do.
Yeah.
You know, they tried a little bit of viral marketing with Cloverfield, which I got into.
Yeah.
You know, at the time, that's more of a recent film, and they had like hidden things in the movie, hidden things in the trailers, and like all the characters had Facebook profiles. Now, it wasn't as successful by any means as the Blair Witch Project, but I don't think they wanted it to be like that.
Yeah.
Like focus on, you know, these were real people and shit. But
I think, you know, for somebody to pull something like that off today, the scheme would have to be far more elaborate. We have too much information ready at our fingertips. You know, like when the Blair Witch came out, you really couldn't Google Heather Donahue and find out that she wasn't missing. And like, she was a graduate from this or that, you know, acting school, and all of that would be there like immediately. Like as soon as you knew the name of especially if they're using a real name, it's like, the internet sleuthing would be intense. There would have to be, so the scheme would have to be far, far more elaborate. In which case you start getting into like weird legal stuff. You know what I mean? Like, And you wouldn't trust the genre almost if like a horror film came out pretending to be, a real footage. Who would buy that again? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So. Okay, so Nate Blanche, just to move, because we're about to move into Blair Witch 2 territory. But Nate, sure. I've seen him ask this question a few times here. And we'll go ahead and get to a couple comments here while we segue. But Nate has asked if we have smoke in our state because of the massive wildfires in, I believe, Canada.
Yeah.
We do not.
Yeah, we're down in South Carolina. We don't have any smoke right now where
not
we
at
are
the moment.
Currently. Yeah.
And as far as I'm aware, none in West Virginia.
You've not heard anything?
I think maybe in parts.
Okay.
But not.
Maybe northeast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very possible.
Yeah.
Midnight Passion, I highly suggest Sleepaway Camp. Do not read up on it. Don't engage anyone in conversation on here just about it. Just watch it. Yeah, that is the way it will be the most effective, I assure you.
Yeah.
Yes, Darkwing Dave, we talked about Cannibal Holocaust earlier. That is one I highly suggest. That's an incredible film. And just great lore behind that movie about how people thought it was real and everything. And Josh here, coming in from the Facebook live stream. Speaking of the camo for a wedding, you wasn't referring to my dad and his camo pants at my sister's wedding, was you? See, I told you. I told you, man. I knew it.
West Virginia does not have that on lockdown. I worked at a bridal shop in Illinois.
Uh-huh.
And we had in stock like camo tuxedos.
Oh yeah, I know. Like I said, I'm related to people who got married in camo.
Yeah, and we had at least one bride get married in camo.
Yeah. Yep, totally have it. Yeah. Another popular thing is like the groom will be in camo, the bride might be in orange, or the best man will be in orange.
We did a lot of like camo tuxedos with orange vests, things like that. Yeah.
And Josh also says it is smoky in Richmond, Virginia.
Bummer. Sorry, guys.
Midnight Passion says I'm in DC and it's been code purple all day.
That's horrible.
Oh my
Sorry,
God,
everybody.
dude. But Connie says it was a little smoggy in Summersville today.
Wild. I can't even imagine. I can't picture that. That's crazy.
Yeah. Nuts. Yeah, it's the apocalypse. We'll have to get my shotgun. Yeah. JK says, hated Cannibal Holocaust, can't take the abuse of animals. That is one thing I will warn people about.
I turned it off.
Yeah, Anna doesn't like it either. But back at in that time for filmmaking, you were allowed to kill animals, real animals on film. Yeah. So if you're squeamish about that, then definitely skip over Cannibal Holocaust for sure. Yeah. JP says, love me some camo tuxedo wear. Let's see here. And yes, the JP asked, was the animal abuse real? F that. Yes, it was absolutely real.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we are going to move into the Blair Witch Project 2. Now, the Blair Witch Project 2, after the success, you're not a fan. Okay, so after the success of the Blair Witch Project 1, they immediately wanted a sequel. And by they, I mean the studio.
Yeah.
Eduardo Sanchez and company were like, no. We can't move that fast. We didn't have anything in the works, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Well, the studio's like, tough shit. We need one.
Yeah.
So they were on the hunt for a director, and they locked down documentarian Joe Berlinger, who
claims that the film was chopped up so much in post-production that he doesn't feel like it had anything to do with the movie he filmed.
Yeah, so
that's caveat.
Yeah, so Joe Berlinger is, this was like his first foray into filmmaking, into traditional filmmaking, because like I said, he's a documentarian and has since resided to documentary work. And he says what he wanted to do with this film. So I'll go ahead and give you the plot synopsis. It's like the Blair Witch Project 2 follows the success of the original Blair Witch Project almost in another semi-found footage style. Like
they claim that it's a reenactment of real things happening. So it's really not found footage. It's shot like a movie.
Kind of. Yeah, but kind of like there's camcorder segments.
Okay.
And there is some found footage moments, like they literally find footage and shit, or are trying to.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah, but most of the movie is filmed.
Yeah, so they said like after the success of the Blair Witch Project, the town of Burkittsville, Maryland, got like a shit ton of visitors, and this is kind of one of the stories of what happened to him. And it's like this guy who is trying to run his own Blair Witch tours throughout the woods, and a group of people come in, and he takes them on this guided tour, and it just descends into madness.
Literally,
you have no idea like what's actually going on throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The characters have no idea what's going on.
No.
And it ends with them seeing one of their friends go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But then the footage that they caught on their cameras, like the friend was begging for their life and shit.
Right.
Like it's
right. The survivors get arrested.
The survivors get arrested and accused of murder.
And when they're shown like the footage of what actually happened to them, it's complete. It's like literally the exact opposite of what what we've seen in the movie and what they recall having happened to them. So that's really kind of the premise of the film. Yeah.
So,
and it's.
So Joe, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So Joe Berlinger said that he wanted to do something totally different. And like the first film just showed him how gullible and dumb the American audience are, because they will just eat up like fake documentaries. And it's like, that's ironic coming from, somebody who can only work in a cookie cutter format. Like he has resigned to documentaries and clearly like editing them with a narrative, instead of like being a true documentary. But anyway, that's Joe Berlinger for you.
He's got a thing about Joe Berlinger.
I do. So Joe Berlinger, who is smarter than the rest of us, said that, he wanted to direct this movie, and he wanted it to, he wanted to do something totally different. The studio would have apparently been happy with another teenagers get lost in the woods movie. It's found footage. That's it. That's all you need to do. Joe Berlinger was like, no, we need to have an actual story here. We need to do something different. Mm-hmm. And then we got the Blair Witch Project 2. And like you said, the studio did cut some stuff up.
Yeah.
So for instance, the entire tone of the film would have been different. Had it started... Now, I'm not sure. Like, I would love to see a director's cut of this, but I can tell you this. So, when the Blair Witch Project 2 starts, we, of course, get the helicopter shot of the Burkittsville woods, and Marilyn Manson's Disposable Teens kicks in. And it's like, that sets a very specific tone.
And it clearly carries through the entire film.
Originally, Joe Berlinger wanted it to play Frank Sinatra's Witchcraft.
Okay, that would have been weird too, though.
That would have been weird, but totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Yeah, completely different tone for sure. Yeah.
What is the detective's name? Wasn't it like Craven, the sheriff?
I don't remember. Yeah,
I think it was like Craven was his name or something like that. So the studio was like, as for those of you who have watched the Blair Witch 2, they intersperse footage of the sheriff interrogating our characters. Originally, that was going to be left until the end, and it would have been an entire 5-minute segment of itself. The scene where the other tour group that is sharing the woods with our main tour group, that tour group is killed.
Mm-hmm.
The studio wanted that footage added.
Okay.
So now that footage was actually shot, if I'm not mistaken, in Joe Berlinger's backyard, like 2 weeks before the movie was released.
Yeah.
Because the studio was like, this shit is boring. We need blood. We need gruesome stuff. You know what I'm saying? We need this to be a horror film, Joe. Yeah. So stuff was being added right before,
which is never good.
Release.
Ever. If a film is still in post-production a week or two before it is released in theaters, I wouldn't even bother. Like, don't bother. Like, don't do it. Like, it's always bad. Yeah, like, that's never good news, ever.
So, as for the Blair Witch Project, I remember that when it came out, it was like, how in the hell can you make a sequel to the Blair Witch Project? Because it is what it, like, it doesn't, that book's closed, bro.
Yeah. But I think it's like it's kind of a really great illustration of like the curse of the studio sequel. Like, it doesn't feel anything like the original film at all. Like, no. They are tonally wildly different. Like, they are cinematically wildly different. Like, yeah, it's weird.
But I will say, I do like Blair Witch Project 2 to a degree.
We like, I'm not why you like Blair Witch Project 2.
I like it to a degree. I know why you would like me to like it to a certain degree. I like it because of the aesthetic.
Yeah, you always say it feels like Halloween.
It feels like Halloween when I watch that movie.
Yeah.
You know, you're in the woods, the leaves have changed, and it's crazy. It's blah, blah, blah. You know, it's not the best. Shit's cut up. I know that.
Yeah.
But, and the first one certainly didn't need a sequel. But I do like it to a degree. You'll argue I like it because of Erica Learson. I do love her. But,
yeah,
I like the movie.
No, that's what you talk about every time you mention Blair Witch 2 is that you love the Halloween vibe of it.
Yeah.
So I know that.
And I will say this, for those of you who have watched the Blair Witch Project 2 and maybe didn't pick up on this, so the next time you watch it, do it through this lens. At one point, our main protagonist does say, tape never lies, film does though. If I remember right, that's his line. So that actually hints at everything you're seeing that's shot through the camcorder is all real, and the film itself is bullshit.
Yeah, what you're spending most of the time watching,
which is the film,
is a lie. Right? Yeah. So yeah, I mean some of the concepts of the film are great. Like that's some of the concepts of it are not what I had a problem with. Like I definitely like the fact that you've got this like dirty, gritty, kind of earthy feel to the first film. The actors really do look like college students they've pulled off the street and shoved into the woods. And the next film is all glam. It's all Hollywood, like big time.
And we'll move into Blair Witch here in just a second. But we'll get to some comments. I will tell people, we're coming up on the hour, and go ahead and send in questions, comments, whatever you got, and we will get to them because we typically only keep these around an hour.
Yeah.
And we will get to them after we're finished talking about the final installment of the Blair Witch franchise, which was Blair Witch, released in 2016, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
But Darkwing Dave says, you can say the same about Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom. Tonally different, and it works because you're not getting the same movie the second time around. that's respect to the audience.
Yeah, but the things that you are getting the same are you're getting the same level of writing, right? Like you've got pristine storytelling happening in both.
Yes.
You're getting the same level of directing because it's the same director.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting the same actor. You're getting the same film quality. So the films look like there's a richness to both that
well,
you don't look at one and say, well, this is a low budget, like indie kind of movie. And now you've got this like really glamorous, high budget. Yeah. It's like you're following a character. And I'm trying to remember, like, I know some of the Indiana Jones films actually kind of swap like timeline, like one's before the other, but whatever, I can't remember that off the top of my head, but there's enough cohesion in the movies that you don't feel like you're watching two movies that can't go together. But you're right, like that's what's great about, I love all the Indiana Jones films, and that's what's great about them is that the stories all take like a big shift depending on the circumstances that he's in. But that's what changes. Indy doesn't change, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Jones doesn't change. Only his circumstances do.
Yeah, and that's my argument too. It's like, you're following the same person.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, the Blair Witch did not lend to a sequel. Temple of Doom or Raiders of the Lost Ark totally does. It's the Adventures of Indiana Jones. That book's open.
Right.
The Blair Witch Project totally closes that shit.
Yeah, these kids are dead.
Yeah, these kids are dead. They're gone. They're missing. It's over. And I don't
know if something had come out right away about the people who go looking for them, and they filmed it the same way, or they almost did, cops and their cameras and they're out in the woods and they're looking for these kids and stuff starts to happen to them, like something like that could have kept the feel, like the grit, this real thing that like I'm just saying that giant shift from the found footage into a movie that looks like a movie, that has actors that look like actors, that has writing that is wild. You move from actors improvising who are being like basically like tortured by the filmmakers to pull these like realistic performances out of them, and you get very scripted, very silly dialogue. It's just it's too much that shifts.
But that's also the difference, right?
Yeah.
Because the difference is Steven Spielberg has control over that shit.
That's true. He's
like, these are my. I'm doing what the hell I want with them.
Yeah.
The studio ain't calling Steven Spielberg a year after Raiders of. We need another one now, or we're moving on with that. They ain't doing that shit.
We're moving on without you. Yeah.
That shit ain't happening. So I'm saying when they moved on to the Blair Witch, they did it. Totally new slate.
We need George Lucas to write another story.
Yeah,
and we need you to film it.
Heck yeah! What's up, Gory Tiger? Welcome to the stream. Derek's horror stuff coming in. What's up, brother Jack, dude?
Yeah.
Glad to see y'all making it in, dude. We're wrapping things up after we talk about the Blair Witch Project 3.
Yep, we're gonna do it quick. We're on the timeline.
Yeah, we're on a little bit of timeline. So if y'all have any questions or comments, go ahead and swing them on over.
Yeah.
And we will get to those. But JP wants to know where Jonas is. Has he been locked in our basements? I don't know, man.
Have you talked to him at all?
I've talked to him a little bit, but he's just
MIA.
He's just MIA.
Just enjoying this summer without us.
Yeah, he's abandoned us, man. Let's see here. So the Blair Witch is what it's called. Just Blair Witch.
Blair Witch, not the Blair Witch.
So yeah, the original creators of the Blair Witch Project decided that they wanted to make a third film. And they were going to go for it. And I can't remember if it was going to be like a direct sequel. I think it was. It was going to be a direct sequel. It is.
It's a direct sequel to the first film. It kind of pretends the second film didn't happen.
Well, this is originally what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And they backed out. The project ended up in development hell. I think, this was around 2010-ish is when it was announced.
Okay.
That iteration of a Blair Witch sequel just died.
Yeah.
Like it got stuck in development hell. So then I believe the idea was picked up again in like 2013.
Makes sense. It came out in 2014.
16.
Does it take place in 2014?
I can't
because I remember like it's the first one takes place in 1994, even though it was released in 1999. And like I remember when I was reading about it, I was like, oh, it's 20 years. It takes place 20 years. Yeah, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So, Blair Witch 3 was filmed in secret under a title of The Woods. And then it was announced at like San Diego Comic-Con or something like that. They're like, hey, this was actually the Blair Witch sequel the whole time, and here it is. Like they got one over on us, but really they kind of got one over on themselves. So,
like, so I feel like I came down really hard on the second film. It is entertaining, right? Like I will say that, like I was entertained. It just, I only talk about, I came down as hard as I did because it's a sequel to another movie.
Yeah.
Standing alone by itself, it's entertaining. The third movie, though.
Yeah, so this one takes place, we follow a dude who
is Heather's
brother. So he is on YouTube one day and discovers footage that on YouTube that was apparently like lost footage from the Blair Witch documentary.
Yeah.
Or some shit. Or no. It's new footage from people who live around Burkittsville, Maryland.
Right. It's footage that has just been found.
Like, and they swear that they captured like a woman in this footage. So this guy becomes convinced that his sister Heather
is still in the woods
20 years later.
Well, and get this, the character himself is like 20.
Yeah.
So this isn't a grown-ass man looking for his sister who's been gone for 20 years. So this is a man who didn't even know her.
Yeah, this is a manlet.
Looking for a sister he never knew. He's like obsessed with finding that she's in the woods.
Yeah, so man, and then you get kind of like that typical shit that I hate about a lot of new films. So they travel to, this guy and his like girlfriend and their friends travel to Burkittsville, Maryland to hunt down the dude who recorded this footage and like will take them to where, and of course, like they have a black friend, and the dude who's supposed to take them to find has like a rebel flag in his home. Oh, so they build false tension.
Yeah, immediately.
Of where, oh man, these dudes must. And then you have to hear, of course, the black guy calling them inbred hillbilly hicks the whole movie. And then you have the rednecks like wondering what the fuck's even going on. Like they're almost ignorant. Like they don't even know
what they're doing is wrong.
So then you get that fake bullshit tension.
Yeah. Just to create tension, like it's literally just to create tension between characters so that when they need to rely on each other later in the movie, they don't. And it's instead of having like characters actually have a real personal argument, they use this kind of very like cheap fake, external.
Yeah. Like fake. Yeah.
It just feels cheap. Yeah.
Yeah. It's super weird how they do. So you get that, which is extremely lazy to me, but then so think of it as like a more high-tech Blair Witch.
Yeah, we're back to found footage.
We're back to found footage. They're filming out in the middle of the Burkittsville woods. They throw a drone up in the air.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool because at one point, I will say one thing I thought was really cool about the movie, they send the drone up and it is endless to try to find how to get the hell out of the woods because they're like walking in circles and shit.
Yeah.
And the woods are endless.
Yeah. It's a really cool shot. That's
I really did
probably
like
the best thing of the movie. But the interesting thing is it's found footage because this young man who's looking for his long lost sister has a friend who decides she's going to film this search
and make it her own documentary.
And so it's like you're immediately set up to dislike at least half the characters. I feel
yeah, because like, oh, so you're going to exploit my heartbreak.
And she does. The whole movie, she's intrusive and exploitive. She's wretched,
and it goes exactly how you would imagine the film to go. drama, people get hurt, things don't go right, there's sounds in the woods, and for God's sake, so you remember in the first one, when you hear sounds in the woods, and it might be fucking leaves moving, twigs breaking, like somebody's walking through the woods, shit you hear when you're in the woods. We know this. We are in the woods constantly.
Yeah.
That can be scary because you don't know what the hell that is.
Yeah.
In this one, and in the first one, at one point you hear Josh screaming for his friends.
Yeah.
And even Heather, if I'm not mistaken, mentions something is trying to draw us out.
Yes. Yeah.
In this fucking movie, Blair Witch 2016, this goddamn thing that lives in the woods makes dinosaur noises.
It sounds like a dinosaur, like legitimately, which is funny. You're like, what does a dinosaur sound like? Well, Spielberg decided what a dinosaur sounds like, and we all know what that sounds like. And that's what it sounds like.
So you'll just suddenly start seeing like trees and shit falling down, and you'll just hear like, what the fuck is the Blair Witch is jacked in this one, son. Like,
so they insert, like, they take like the found footage concept and then they insert like one absurd sound effects. Like, it's really, there were other things to it. Like, I really thought like the sound in the film was terrible, but two, like, and then like really absurd over the top special effects.
Yeah.
Like one of the girls injures her foot and she ends up with this like giant weird parasite thing wiggling around in it. And it's just like, why is that so over the top? Why is that so absurd looking? And like, and then a character gets like snapped in half at one point in the movie. It just, bends in half, and it like just looks so absurd that it's like, they totally missed the fact that what worked in the original film was like the subtlety.
Yes. Well, and then they try in the
realism almost.
Yeah, it's just a bad movie. And then in the end,
it's just a bad movie.
It's just a bad movie because in the end, man, it's like it pays it's the same ending as the original.
Yeah.
In this one, it's the same ending, and it's like,
but even that they push too far.
Like, they do, because it's like, so the guy's standing in the corner. Now we all know, don't turn around if you're in the damn corner. Like, that is the one rule, the one fucking rule to survive Blair Witch Land, is you don't turn around if you're in the damn corner. You don't look at this thing. This son of a bitch is in the corner and is like, and then it says his name, but in the voice of Heather.
Yeah, it's Heather's voice saying Josh.
And he turned, or whatever the hell his stupid name was.
Yeah.
And then he turns around, and of course,
Yeah.
Another ambiguous ending.
Well, and the funny thing is like then he's got a friend, because he's not the last to die. Then his friend who knew, like, oh, he got because he turned around, also gets tricked into turning around. It's like,
yeah, so it's nonsense.
So we watched two people get tricked into turning around.
It's nonsense. So yeah, I would, it's just a very, very lazy movie that uses tropes, these new age tropes where they have to make characters dislike each other and distrust you, but it's not on their own merit.
Right,
like,
yeah.
It's not, it's like they're bringing...
It's not like, oh, you're bringing that guy, he slept with my girlfriend. It's like, you know what I mean? It's not like that.
It's like, well, let me make an assumption how you feel about this ethnicity of people. Yeah. Or let me make an assumption, it's like...
It's all very external. It's all instead of...
Yeah. Give me real conflict. In the original, when Mike, and it's totally... Mike was fucking loony at a point. He's like, we've been walking for days in a circle, and he kicked the map in the damn creek, and they all went nuts.
Doesn't tell anybody.
And
for an entire day.
And it was cool in the original because, like, Mike kicks that shit into the creek, doesn't tell anybody, and then the tension drops, and they're all friends again. And then, like, they're finally just like, it's almost like they've accepted it, and, they're cool, they're laughing.
Yeah.
And then Mike comes through and is like, by the way, I kicked the map, and all hell breaks loose. Like, it's a good roller coaster.
Yeah.
And it's something that, like, he could feel comfortable enough now that the tension is low that, man, they are my friends. I can tell them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, and that only even happens because they do a really great job of, like, Heather is the director. She's in charge. And the worse things get, the less in control she is. And like, you know what I mean? Instead of being like, say, like an ER nurse or whatever, who gets like more calm, cool, and collected as stuff gets worse, like she just loses it. Like, but continues to try to say like, I'm in charge, I know what I'm doing. And it just like, doesn't work. So the whole thing unravels, but it unravels from the inside out.
Yeah. And the first one, it felt like, now I know that they all didn't really know each other that well. No. Mike was totally new to the group. Or at least to Heather, if I'm not mistaken. But it's like, these act like real people that are going camping together. Like they were very natural.
Yeah.
The dudes from Blair Witch 2016, like that is the most sterile ass group of friends. It's so movie Friends. It's unreal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, all right, folks, we're going to start wrapping it up. Go ahead and send in some questions, comments. We'll get to them. And I think Billy Judd has figured it out, Anna. He says either that or Mike was standing in the corner urinating.
That's probably what's happening. Like every movie has a guy peeing.
Every horror movie has a guy peeing.
So you're probly right.
Absolutely.
Nailed it. Thank you for solving that puzzle for all of us.
Yeah. So that's the,
the we love you, Billy Judd.
And that's Midnight Passion. That's why I don't like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the new one. I believe we were talking about the basements when he said that. Are you talking about when the 2003 remake is the greatest remake of all time? That basement is creepy as hell, bro. That water sloshing around and shit. Like, screw that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. So the Blair Witch, though, was a fun one to talk about.
Yeah.
It's a fun time. It was such a fun time for film.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it really was.
Horror. Yeah. It's I don't know. It's not the same. It'll never, like, I think it can be done, but it will never be like that.
No. Yeah.
Yeah,
it was JP who said earlier, like, that no one will be able to pull that off ever again. I kind of tend to come down on that side. I don't think anybody could ever pull that off again. Not
maybe not exactly
not
that.
Not with all this information at our fingertips.
I think there's some possibilities out there.
Uh-oh. Now he's scheming.
Yeah. JP says, if you're looking for something a bit different in a horror movie, check out Sawed Off by Hunter Johnson. It's worth the watch.
Roger that. And then you also said above, what was it? Scream, the true story of
somebody. Yeah, so I mentioned that.
We've got to check that out too.
So Billy Judd, who was Josh in Hatchet 2006? Which character did he play? I don't remember him being in that. Josh was also in Hatchet. Oh, so was Midnight Person, was Skinamarink any good? Like, I've heard mention of it, but I haven't got to check it out. There you go. Also, horror-related documentary, Ghosts of Flight 401 by Stephen Shippey. Stephen Shippey.
The kiddos are going to bed.
Yep, the kiddos are going to bed. I want my answer from Billy Judd, and then we will peace out. Because we were actually, Midnight Passion and Billy Judd, we were actually talking about Hatchet earlier today.
We were.
And how much I like those movies. I wouldn't mind watching all of them while I'm here. Because
we had gumbo for dinner.
Because we had gumbo for dinner, that's right. Yeah, I wouldn't mind watching all of them here. On that monster ass TV.
Yeah.
Hey, Arthur. Do you want to wave goodbye, good night to everyone? All right, so this is my boy Arthur. He has wanted to be on the podcast.
Hi.
Every night we've been here. So, Arthur, what's your favorite scary movie, bub?
Hellboy.
Hellboy.
Awesome.
All right.
Love it.
All right, everybody. That is Arthur. Whoa. Oh my God. It's over for us.
He's got it.
He's got it. Heck yeah, he does. All right, my friends. Thank you all so much for coming in tonight. Nate Blanche says hi, Arthur. Oh, and Midnight says hi, and JP says hi, and JK says hi.
Uncle John says hi.
So, yep. So, Samuel says hi. Yeah. So by next week, background situation will be totally different. We will be in the normal talk horror lair of evil.
I feel like you shouldn't have said that because you say that every week on the podcast.
I do.
And but maybe that's what has cursed us.
This time it's happening. I'm freaking confident, man. I'm confident.
We'll see.
Hey, man, it was Midnight Passion, man. Glad you could make it in here. Some new faces in here. Y'all, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stick around. You're part of the horror fam if you haven't already, and hit them thumbs ups. All right, let's get that rolling. So, yeah, thank y'all so much for coming in and spending this time with us. It was really fun tonight. It was really great to look back on that franchise.
Yeah.
And we will see you all next week, next Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Same talk horror time, same talk horror channel. So until next time, my friends, look horror.
Listen horror.
Talk horror.
Night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. We love you, man. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.